All right, we got the good news, and then we got the good news. We got the okay on the color scheme from the owner. And we are going to now very lightly just scuff the top of this. If you're new to the guitar finishing type of stuff, you may be asking to yourself, why is he scratching up that perfectly good guitar? Because if our guitar is too smooth, we could have problems with paint adhesion. So we're going to give what's called a scuff coat to it. And that is just so that the new paint has got something to stick to. You probably can't really tell, but now I have all these little fine scratches, which is going to give our paint something to grab onto, but then it's not going to be so scratched up that we're going to have ugliness. Now comes the really fun part. We've got to mask this thing off. This is, I got to reiterate this. This is not going to be a stage played guitar. This is wall art, is what this is. We can agree or disagree on whether it's an appropriate use of this instrument. Doesn't matter because it's not ours. We don't own it. We're doing a job for a client, and if they wanted us to, put pink unicorns on it, we'd put freaking pink unicorns on it. Because if you want business, that's what you do. All right, we got a little high-tech action going on here. Not really. This is a hole punch set I picked up a while back, and I double punched that one. It's come in actually fairly handy for a couple of different projects I've been using. In this one, we're just using it to get the right size little piece of tape to stick on my thumb and then stick over this little hole. And the only reason I'm doing that is I don't want tape, or I don't want paint to get down in that hole, because then it's a pain. Now we get the fun part. Now we just start masking this off. And again, we're going to mask it off as well as we can. So this is about as much fun as you think it would be. Is there an easier way to do this? I have no doubt. Do I know what that way is? Obviously not. All right, and a few minutes later, you get one of these. Everything's taped up, so the paint goes where the paint's supposed to go. So what do? Base coat. We've given it a base coat of white. I've gotten the appropriate frog in my throat for the day, and so we got to lay out this design, and I'll put a picture up of this mock-up that we're going to do that has been approved by the owner. And the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to draw this line. That is going to set the basis for our design. Everything else is going to work off of this line. And my big head in the way? That probably is. So this is that line that runs straight across. This is the field of stars, and this is going to be the bottom of the red stripe. And we have kind of pre-configured this. We need to be 1 3/8 inches in between lines. So now, just for fun, we're going to continue with this snap line here. Yeah, the heater's running like crazy. So we have now got our line, so this is going to be red, that's going to be white, that's going to be red. So now we'll just probably snap another line here, set our points, and we can draw the lines across there. Sure enough, trouble in Texas. Oh, what is going on? So now that I've turned on the power switch, I've got to lay out this first line. And I've just taken this tape and cut it in half because I just want the straight edge right now. And apparently a hair, because I see one. Let's see, red, white. Red, white. As you look at it, the flag is not symmetrical. I just sat and I measured, and when I measured, then I sat down and I figured out ratios as to how far this should be from here and such and such. So that's how I came to the size of the stars that I'm using, that I'm going to use to mask off the area that we want to keep white. Is I measured how the relationship between a star and a stripe, and came up with that ratio, and then started looking for stars. I looked for these on the Amazon, and found vinyl pre-cut stars in a shape that I was able to work with. So now that we've got that part of it figured out, you can see I've got marked off where the bottom of the star needs to be and where the edge of the star needs to be, so that I can then start lining them up and start getting them across. So we can get it masked and we can get some paint on this freaking thing. have it. Hey, see how much glare we can get in this shot. I have audio bars. Do I? Do I? I do. So this is going to be a little tricky. This one right here. Trying to get it to stay down because it's just got a little tips there on it. But I think we'll get her shot. So anyways, we're just trying to crank the heat up in the shop a little bit. And then we'll get to laying the paint on it. One more step closer to being done. All right, let's find out. Are we the hero or are we the zero? That's very interesting. Do you see it? Do you see it? I see it. Plain as freaking day. We're close, but not close enough, because what do we have here? We have a space. Right in between here, because there should be red right through here, so we're going to leave that there. Argle bargle. All right, well, that's not huge. That is not huge. We can fix that. All right, it's taken forever, but we've gotten 5 coats of clear lacquer on here. Hey, if that guy's still around, just for you, buddy. And we've given this a somewhat of a, I don't know what you want to call it. I don't know if you want to call it a lightly antiqued or somewhat relict or vintage. I don't care. I'm not into the labels. This is done in a way that it doesn't look like it's brand new. There's a couple of dings on it. There is some color bleed through so that it doesn't. I didn't want this thing to come out looking like it had, walked right out of the factory. I know Mike. I know the decor that he's got in his house. And I think this would fit in a little bit better than something that just, looks like it came right off of a shelf. So anyways, we're going to do a little bit of wet sanding. We're going to go 400 grit, 600 grit, 800 grit, and then we're going to see what it looks like. There's a finish that's going to go on top of this, so we're not mission critical on getting this thing to be at a mirror finish. And the other thing is, when you're doing something like this, you have to take into consideration what your person wants, because the way that we're doing this job is not the way that we're doing a job if somebody is going to have a performing guitar, if it's going to be on the road, if it's going to be, like any normal guitar would be done. This has ceased to become a normal guitar, and this is basically decor. It's wall art, and that's fine. So what I'm using as the wetting agent for the wet sanding portion of this is we're just using naphtha. I have tried a couple of different things to try and get it to do wet sanding, and I can tell you right now what you don't want to use is water, because water is going to get down into any kind of a hole. Like, it'll seep down into here and it's going to swell up, and we've seen that in other instruments that we've done, because you got to learn. And so I've done it with just mineral spirits. I've done it with Roncinol lighter fluid, which this is actually not. This is the Roncinol container. This is just straight naphtha. You buy it in a big gallon jug for a lot cheaper. then you do a bunch of other stuff. And we're just trying to take the peaks off the high part of the clear and get it down as level as we can. All at the same time, we're trying really hard not to actually go through this, not to go through the color or the clear coat and get to the color, because that's not what we want to do. We're keeping this super thin. Again, part of this is because you just don't want to put a ton of hours into something that's not necessary, and in this case it's not. So we're going to do this for a while. We're done with our 400 grit, and you know what, let's do the zoomy zoom. Let's see if I can't get this to show up. Not that way. Not this. There we go. There it was. There we go. You can see how sections of that are not shining. The flat sections are what our sandpaper has come in contact with and has knocked it down, has taken the top off of that little hill. The shiny spots are the low areas where we haven't reached yet. Now, if what we were attempting to do was to make a super duper mirror-like finish, then we're going to continue the process of getting the tops of these off, the tops of those little hills off. Then we would come back with another coat of clear coat, try to fill up the valleys, come back again, take the tops off, fill the valleys up, take the tops off. That's how you get that super duper mirror-like finish. We're going to get this shiny. We're not going to get it super mirror finish because the finish plan doesn't call for it. All right, here we are after 800 grit. There's a little bit of it there. So anyways, what I'm going to use now is, I've been using this stuff. I'm almost out of it. Give me a good excuse to go back to Japan. This is a clear coat finishing kit that I got while I was living outside of Tokyo, and man, I think this is probably going to be about the last one. Now, I've said this before. I don't know if these are supposed to be directly correlated to what in the States we would call grits. I don't know. I just know that I've used them with great success, and I'm going to be sad when I'm out of them. And again, like you need an excuse to go to Japan. Now I'm going to have one. It'd be nice to go over and bring some more guitars back. Anyways, it's the same type of process. You just squirt it on, you polish it with these little dedicated polishing pads, and we'll see how far it gets us. I suppose I should mention at this point, I don't even think about working the edges until this point, because you live and die by the edges. So for me personally, I don't even think it's worth the effort to get close to them at this point, or until this point. Other people do it different ways, and that's fine, because we're not here to show you the way to do it. I should probably put that pad down the right way. There we go. We're not here to show you the way to do it. I'm here to show you the way that I do it, and I can always learn something. But that has served me fairly well over the years, is just stay away from the edges until the last bit. I check my pad often to make sure that I'm not pulling color up. I have a section right in here somewhere that I think I've just kind of kissed the white on the bottom of it. I just saw the barest hint of it coming up. And I always change cloths in between, well, if you're using sandpaper, in between grits, even between these polishing compounds. I will go to a different rag between each grit, because you don't want to bring the grit from your just completed pass into your new pass, because all you're doing is you're covering up scratches from your previous work. That's all you're doing. So in order to cover up your 400 grit scratches, you go with another grit. You go with 800 grit or 600 grit or whatever grit it is, and all you're doing is putting smaller scratches on top of bigger scratches to the point where you can't see the smaller scratch or the bigger scratches anymore. That's all you're doing. Hey, there we go. All right, there we are. Headed into the paint booth again. You can kind of see we're not mirror polished again. We don't have to be, because this application doesn't call for it. That was just the owner of the guitar telling me he loves it. So we've given it one final cleaning with some naphtha, and now we're going to shoot a super, super, super light sparkle coat on it. And we're doing it like that because it'd be a lot easier to put on a second coat than to go, ooh, that's a little much. So we'll go into the paint booth and give it one final wipe down with a tack cloth, and then sparkle time. All right, we're gonna unveil, or at least peel all the tape and stuff off of here. I have consulted with the owner, and we have, let's come up here, we have the sufficient amount of sparkle that they wish. This is like a poor man's metal flake. If you're actually going to be touching the guitar, this would be no bueno. So we're going to start peeling this off here. It's probably going to take a little bit of time, just because there is a ton of protective coating stuff on here. So we will speed this up. And what we're going to do is we're going to clean up. Why is this not recording? You dirtbag. So now that we've pressed the switch, we've already talked about this to the owner, that we're not exactly sure how much bleeding we were going to get through. What we'll do is we'll go through and we'll clean up as much of this as we can. But what we, again, have already talked to him about is that we're more than likely just going to paint a thin black line around here. That'll kind of clean everything up that we're not able to fix. We'll do a little polish, and yeah, and then we'll get her put back together. So calm down, save the hate mail for something that, you know, really needs hate mail. not somebody redoing a guitar. All right, we're into this, I don't know, half an hour, 45 minutes or so, and we're pretty darn close. All right, we're happy the way this thing is. So I'm going to reassemble it, and we're not going to watch me reassemble this, because if you really want to see me reassemble it, you can go and watch the first video and just watch everything in reverse. Hey, just like that, you got a guitar that works and a microphone that doesn't. So let's try this. That's not bad for wall art, is it? So anyways, the EPIPHONE America shaped guitar, now painted like the America. And these are the strings that came on it. I just took a bunch of stringies and put it on there to try to keep any additional corrosion from happening. Anyways, if we were going to paint this as an everyday playing on the stage guitar, would we have done it like this? Absolutely not. But this isn't going to be an everyday playing on the stage guitar. This is going to be an everyday hanging above the fireplace guitar. Now, I have a fairly good idea what guitar is eventually going to join it, but you're going to have to stay tuned. Perhaps this would be a good time for you to subscribe to the channel, because maybe we'll actually get to start that guitar at some point. But that means that we're now working on travel plans to get this guitar and the Ovations in the house. To get those guitars back home to Nashville. Get those to Nashville Mike. And then we will have some, we'll actually finally get to some projects that we started years ago that are my projects, because right now I'm not taking any work in, other than that one guitar that will currently remain nameless. So anyways, there it is. Send me all the hate mail you want. It doesn't matter, because you're not the guy paying for it. Anyways, I'm James. This is Rattlecan Guitar Restorations. You guys have a good one. Cheers. Hey, if you like this episode of Rattlecan Guitar Restorations, you might want to check this video out as well. Be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, and if you'd like to help the channel grow, consider stepping over to our Patreon page and giving that a look. Y'all have a good weekend. Cheers.